Good morning, everyone. My name is Karina Ayala Bermejo, and I'm the president and CEO of Instituto del Progreso Latino. We are located in the southwest side of Chicago, and our mission is to ensure that Latinos and their Latino families reach their fullest potential. And we do that through education, training, employment, and legal services. And we do that so that they can be engaged, so that we fully foster their participation in the U.S. changing society. And that we do that because we want them to be part of this beautiful democracy while preserving their cultural identity and dignity. So it is my great pleasure to welcome you home here to the vibrant city of Chicago. And as we kick off the Democratic National Convention Week here in the Democracy House at the WIT Chicago. Now, I'm personally proud to welcome you to my home state of Illinois, and specifically Chicago, because it's personal. As someone who was born in Mexico but lived here for 6 years, or since I was 6, my father had a dream as a migrant farm worker that he would come to Chicago and work in the steel mill. So when I see our beautiful skyline, I see his hands that helped build those beautiful skylines and that beautiful skyscraper. So Chicago, when you see those magnificent skyscrapers, know that that's dreams realized. Know that that's opportunity for all. So Chicago, with our rich history and vibrant culture and such deep diversity, what a fitting, most perfect backdrop to what we are about to do today, this discussion, and such a pivotal moment in our nation's democracy. Couldn't be better. Now, not only are we known for our deep roots in social advocacy, social justice, political advocacy, we're the hub for movements that have shaped the entire country for better. Now this week we gather not only for the DNC, but to unite around values and a vision that define our country and our communities. Justice, equality, and opportunity for all. It's my honor to introduce someone who does not need an introduction, Frankie Miranda, who's like a brother to me. He is the president and CEO of the Hispanic Federation, a leading national Latino organization that is dedicated to empowering and advancing the Hispanic community across the U.S. Under Frankie's beautiful, bold leadership, he has significantly expanded its reach and its impact, becoming a vital force in addressing critical issues that are facing our community, including education, immigration, health, and economic empowerment. And here in Chicago, the Hispanic Federation is a leading and supporting voice in programming, policy, initiatives that have capacity building work, coalition building. So we're so glad you chose Chicago as your home as well. And we're so glad to welcome you here, Frankie, Hispanic Federation, and all of you. This is a tireless advocate for the Latino community, working to ensure that our voices are not just heard, right, but that our needs are met at every level in government and in society. It is such a great honor to be here today as we kick off the DNC. We're so privileged to discuss these exciting findings of a crucial national poll conducted by the Hispanic Federation in collaboration with Latino Victory and BSP Research. This poll offers a comprehensive snapshot of the priorities, the presidential preferences, and the aspirations of 36.2 million eligible Latino voters. And if that doesn't excite you, right? I am so thrilled to be able to help kick this off. And let's bring up, with a warm Chicago welcome, Frankie to help kick this poll off.
It's too kind.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Karina, for such a warm welcome. It is special to be here with all of you in the great city of Chicago.
Woo!
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
It is my pleasure to get us started to frame our conversation around my absolute favorite subject, Latinos and the power of our community. And that's right, there are more than 64 million of us, whether we are in Phoenix, Arizona, or Clark County, Nevada, or Allentown, Pennsylvania, we are undoubtedly helping shape America's culture, economy, and democracy. All the data, numbers, and insights that we have tell us this. Latinos are ready to play a decisive role in the upcoming presidential election.
Woo!
Thank you. We're, of course, here to talk about why that is and the findings of our national poll on Latinos, which we're happy to have done in collaboration with our incredible sister organization, the Latino Victory Foundation. Thank you so much, Cindy, and to everybody at Latino Victory Foundation. Today's discussion will be framed from a nonpartisan perspective, consistent with our 34-year history of mobilizing Latinos to turn out to vote and uplifting the needs and aspirations of our community. We want to make sure not just that Latinos are civically engaged, but that those in power, those seeking office, understand and respond to our community's priorities and concerns. To that end, the Federation has been polling Latinos for nearly 3 decades now around what matters most to them. And beyond the polls and surveys, we also work with a network of more than 750 organizations in 42 states and territories to help our youth and families access affordable health care, obtain job and career skills, and get the immigration support they need to fulfill the American dream. And also to get our people registered and to get them out to vote. I mention this because we want political stakeholders and power brokers gathered here in Chicago and beyond to know that it is our groups, the ones on the front lines of serving the Latino community, organizations like Karina's Instituto del Progreso. And we talk about the needs and aspirations of Latinos, it comes from a place of deep insight and a lived reality of service and commitment to the Latino community. As trusted community sources, it is these Latino nonprofit organizations that must be supported to reach and engage our communities. The results of the polls that we're about to present confirm what our network and our canvassers have been reporting back to us recently. Latinos are paying increased attention to what's happening in the race and are growing in enthusiasm around their political choices. And without further ado, let's just start with our discussion. I want to first introduce our poll extraordinaire. The go-to when it comes to Latino polls, our great friend Matt Barreto, president and founder of BSP Strategies and professor of political science and Chicano studies at UCLA. Please give him an applause. And also joining us in the panel is Cindy Benavides, the president and CEO of Latino Victory, who is leading the work the Latino Victory is doing to ensure that there is more Latino representation in our community. Cindy later will lead us through our Q&A, but let's just get started. Matt Barreto.
All right, thank you. And a round of applause for Cindy. Thank you, Frankie. Cindy, it was a pleasure to work with both of you. I'm going to kind of come here so I can see the screen and walk you guys through the results. Hope this is okay. I'm going to make it like a talk show style here. So we did this poll. This is the first poll that we're doing in a series, part of a larger project with Hispanic Federation and Latino Victory Foundation. After the convention, we're going to be releasing state-by-state level results in all of our key battleground states. But we wanted to frame the convention here on day one and start with a look at a national poll of 600 registered voters. It was in the field, just came out of the field last week on August 10th, done in our traditional style where we use live telephone, bilingual callers, as well as text messages, as well as our online panels. So let me start at the beginning of what Frankie just told us, which was that interest is high. We found overall 73% of Latinos said that they're certain to vote. That's about a 10-point increase of what we were seeing earlier this summer. We have seen an increase in enthusiasm, as we're going to see. It is slightly lower among younger people, but that itself is an increase over what we had seen just a few weeks ago, about a 12-point increase among younger folks. It was at 54% in March. So 11-point increase just among that youngest cohort, and we're expecting that to continue seeing increasing. And that is where our power of our numbers are, is in that younger cohort of Latino voters. Since Joe Biden has dropped out and Kamala Harris has become the new nominee, have you become more or less interested in the race? 57% of Latinos say that they're now more interested in the race against only 10% less. A 47-point net increase in interest, with a third saying no change. This has been a dramatic increase. You've seen it on social media. You've seen it at the rallies. This is the first data to confirm that in a large national sample that we can generalize and say, yes, this is actually happening. It's not just a few people who are telling us, but in this large national sample, 57% more interested. And we can see this across the different demographics. I want to break out a couple of key points. Younger Latinos, 18 to 29 and 30 to 49, 56% more interested, 60% more interested. Bilingual households, 61% more interested. Democrats, 68% more interested. So this enthusiasm is real. It's happening among some of our key segments. And we expect at the conclusion of this week that it might be even higher. A second question that we asked was not just interest in the election overall, but how has your views towards the Democratic Party changed since the transition of the nominee? 42% say they're now more excited about voting Democrat, against only 9% who say they're less excited. That's a net increase of 33 points. And that's what we're seeing in all the polling, not just in the Latino polling, but all the polling. And then another 19% who said it didn't matter, they were going to vote Democrat no matter what. And 29%, which is consistent with the demographics of our community, they says no, they're going to vote Republican. But that 33-point increase in the enthusiasm of wanting to vote Democrat is very telling and matches the overall enthusiasm we're seeing in this election. And again, you can see this broken down by some of the key segments. Women, 44 to 9, 18 to 29s you see there, 45 to 11, very high. And again, bilingual and Spanish households 44 versus only 7, very, very high. And you can see there in the youngest cohort, 18 to 29, only 22% in that red bar of saying I plan to vote Republican no matter what. So there are very progressive issue-based Latinos under 30. We weren't seeing them in the polls previously. We are now seeing them in the polls registering very high levels of support for the Democratic ticket. What are the most important issues? This should surprise nobody in the room. Cost of living, inflation, jobs in the economy, and cost of housing top the issues for the Latino community, followed by 2 issues related to immigration, both the border and also immigration reform for immigrants here. We see Latinos talking about gun violence, continues to be a top issue. In every poll we do, continues to come in at 20% or higher. Abortion and reproductive rights, access to health care. Okay, so these are the issues, and especially these cost issues that we expect Latinos will be hearing and talking about from their candidates. We then asked a series of policy questions and a series of character trait questions. Does this describe Kamala Harris more? Does this describe Donald Trump more? Do you trust Kamala Harris more, or do you trust Donald Trump more on this issue, or neither, in the middle? At the top of this chart, ensuring access to abortion and reproductive rights yields Harris a 48-point margin with Latinos, 63 to 15 on trust. This is the strongest issue that she has, and we expect to continue hearing more about this. Path to citizenship for immigrants, plus 41 with 60% versus 19. We had heard some rumors that maybe Trump was making inroads with Latinos on the immigration issue. This does not appear to be borne out in any data we've seen. He did make inroads in 2020, almost entirely over anxiety over the COVID economy, not over his immigration plans. Ensuring access to affordable care, a plus 30 margin to 55%. Combating climate change, an issue that continues to rank high among Latinos. Harris 51, Trump 19, a 32-point margin. So those are all over 30-point margins. Those are the margins that Democrats will be aspiring to in the Latino community. But you see on other issues such as holding corporations accountable and creating better jobs and better opportunities for the middle class, Harris continues to maintain a lead. And only on the issue of addressing the border, an issue that you see her campaigning on now and beginning to turn the roads on. Finally, we asked about character traits. Does this describe Harris more, or does this describe Trump more? We'll treat, at the top of the list, we'll treat Latino and immigrant communities with respect. Plus 36. This is the strongest character trait associated with Kamala Harris, 59 to 23. Can bring people together and unify our country at plus 31. Will create more opportunities for people like me, plus 24 at 54 to 30. Has the right demeanor, will protect and uphold our Constitution and our democracy, and will be respected. On each of these traits, maintains an advantage over Mr. Trump. We're also finding, though, because of her entry into the race at a later point, that only a third of Latinos in our poll said that they were well informed. 30% said that they were not informed about the policy agenda. This creates an opportunity for both candidates. Trump was only slightly ahead there on 40% informed. For both candidates to conduct outreach and messaging to the Latino community. You see combined, 66% say that they're less informed, they don't feel well informed, and 60% about Trump. So there's a huge opportunity to continue and to conduct this outreach to our community. When we look at favorability ratings, we see that the vice president has a plus 24 net favorability rating with Latinos, 58-34, and former President Trump at minus 23. This is the highest that we have seen the net of plus 24 for the vice president. When she was first announced back in July, she was at about plus 16 or so. So this is now another 8 points higher. So that momentum we're seeing is continuing. And it's also about 7 points lower for President Trump. So we're seeing a divergence now starting to emerge in the Latino community that wasn't there, frankly, for months. And it seems to be growing each week. You see vice presidential nominees, J.D. Vance is a net negative 17, and Tim Walz, who's still largely unknown in the Latino community, but is a net plus 9. So where do we have the vote right now? Today we have, this is the U.S. House vote, 54-29. Generic House ballot. And here's where we have the presidential. So in the multi-candidate, 52 to 29, that's about a 11-point increase over a previous poll that we had on a multi-candidate. And on the combined two-way, where you ask the third-party and undecided voters who are they going to vote for, we have Harris at 59, Trump at 35. This plus 24 margin is the largest that we have seen in any Latino polling, but it's consistent with what we saw from New York Times Siena, which had her at plus 18, CBS plus 17, and a recent Eckes poll. You see an Eckes poll from June had the race at only 5 points. But a recent Eckes poll also had the race at about 19. This, in a national survey, the most recent data, has it at plus 24. So it does appear that Democrats are getting back to that sort of normal 2-to-1 distribution that they've had for a long time. And then that's being really driven by strength among women, Latinas, plus 35. Young people, as I said, really coming back, plus 34, 65 to 31. Spanish households at plus 33. And you also see a larger margin there among Puerto Rican households at plus 34 than among Mexican American. Yeah. To all of the Boricuas in the room. The last thing I'll draw your attention to here and then turn it back over to Frankie is the last two bars on this chart. Those who say that they were informed, previously we showed you whether or not people felt that they were informed about the Harris agenda. And among the people who said they were somewhat or very well informed, say they're supporting Harris at 71 to 26, plus 44. Among that third who say they don't have as much information, she's actually losing that vote by 22. So among the people with very low levels of information who aren't tuning in yet, she's losing that vote. And this suggests that as people have more information about her candidacy, she's doing better. All right, that was the last slide. Turn it back over to Frankie. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Before I hand it over to Cindy to lead us through the Q&A, I want to, first of all, mention that Luis Miranda was supposed to be joining us today, but because of the inclement weather in New York, a lot of our New York folks... Oh, he's going to be here? Okay.
All right.
So at least I can...
Get
They're
prepared.
going to say, like, oh, Frankie was going to apologize on behalf of Luis. I also want to recognize a few friends here. Brooklyn DA Eric Gonzalez, thank you so much for joining us. I saw our friends Hector Sanchez from Mi Familia Bota around earlier today.
Hector.
Julio Rodriguez from Alma, thank you so much for being here. Jose Sanchez from Humboldt Health, thank you. Our friend Henry Munoz. Henry, thank you so much for being here and joining us. Billy Ocaso from the National Puerto Rican Museum. And soon we will have the Honorable Miguel Cardona also joining us. He's on his way as well. But I would like to have the opportunity to join us here for a few words. Somebody that is going to have a huge responsibility in counting ballots in a very important state, and that is Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes. Can you please join us for a few words?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. It's an honor, and I do appreciate all of the work that is happening across the United States of America. Thank you, Max, for twisting my arm and making sure that I got here. And I appreciate the Hispanic Foundation and Latino Victory for making sure that we get the information and the data that we need to plan and execute moving forward. It is certainly a great responsibility that I bear, but really the responsibility lands on all of those poll workers who are having those interactions with our voters. There lands to the activists, the organizers out there in our communities. These are the folks who are on the ground. These are the folks who are going to make that cumulative difference across the United States of America. So proper credit where due for those folks. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we look to the future as well. I think momentum is on the right side for our community. And what I wanted to do is not just thank the folks who did all of this work to bring us this data, but to look to what's really happening, I think, nationwide. And I'll use Arizona as a quick microcosm. For a very long time, we've been operating in the Latino community from a paradigm of we want to get a seat at the table. We want access. We want to be there. We want to be part of the discussion, as if we're standing on the outside. And I will posit that that time is over. And here's why. Here's why. Starting in the 2022 legislative session in Arizona, of the 90 legislators in the House and in the Senate, 6 of them had the surname Hernandez. And while some of them were related, many of them were not. Think about that for a moment, right? We are in positions of power as prosecutors, as attorneys general, as secretaries of state, in our state houses, in our delegations, in our county boards, on our city councils, across the United States of America. We are moving into greater and greater numbers in these positions of power. We're no longer knocking on the door. We're no longer trying to get in as much, and we still have work to do there. But moving forward, we need to consider a paradigm shift from standing outside to into the following. We are now at the table. We need to start making the rules. We need to start taking charge. And it is this movement away from reacting as against the powers that be into taking responsibility for the power that we have. And in my view, this is going to be a significant shift, because we have for a very long time been trying to get in. And I think we can see, not just by the numbers here, by the folks here, but by the way that we're being treated nationally, with respect. We're being treated with a level of deference that we haven't seen. I mean, I look around the country and I see great leaders who've been doing this for a long time, whose shoulders that we've stood upon. I think about one of my great mentors, a guy by the name of Tom Perez. I don't know if any of you know him. Tends to make a grand entrance whenever I'm talking. Good to see you, Tom. But this is the point that I'm trying to make, not just for today, not just for now, but moving forward into the future. We can stand on the street corner and we can protest. We can make demands. We can use the courts to litigate. But it is our electoral power that is moving us into positions where we need to be the leaders. We need to be well informed. We need to have those strategies that are going to ultimately turn into the policies that help our communities. Not just to get at the table, but to be the ones running the table. This is where I think the next wave of leadership needs to go. So fight like hell to get our candidates elected. Fight like hell to make sure that we are represented and continue that work without question. But we need to have it in the back of our minds. What does tomorrow look like for Latinos in the United States of America? We need to be ready to lead. Because if we're not ready to lead, somebody else is. And given the way that, we are moving demographically across the United States, we are going to have to take responsibility for knowing how policy is made, understanding the sophisticated nature of governance across municipal, state, and federal governance, and we've got to step it up in that area. So thank you so much for the opportunity to help get, just kind of push us forward a little bit. We're going to fight like hell, and I've heard it somewhere before, when we fight, we win. So let's go ahead and fight out there, shall we? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. And I apologize.
Thank you. No problem. No problem. Thank you so much. Thank you to the Secretary of State. And, before we go into the Q&A, I just wanted to say that precisely what he mentioned about we need to put the work. That is why the Federation is pledging $1 million that we're investing in starting right now. We're going to be reaching out to 3 million Latino voters in 12 states. We're going to be texting, calling, knocking on doors. We are making the investment where it's needed, and it's going to be right now. Thank you. And with further ado, I will bring my hermana, Cindy Benavides, to lead us on the rest of the session, and also providing some insight as well. Thank you.
Muy buenos días.
Buenos
Buenos
días.
días.
We need more coffee in this room. Muy buenos días.
Buenos días.
Así es mi pueblo, mi gente. Mi nombre es Cindy Benavides. I serve as the president and CEO of Latino Victory. And before I even get started, my parents really trained me well to pay respect to individuals who have laid the way for us. And one of those individuals, our founder, Henry Munoz, is in the room. Henry, if you could just stand up.
Woo!
Let me tell you, when you go to battle, you want Henry next to you. So Henry, thank you for all that you do. And I know Luis Miranda, our chairman, is on the way. So when he comes in, I hope everyone just takes a moment to do a big clap for him. And his birthday, by the way, is on Friday. So just un feliz cumpleaños para él. But as we dive into the questions, I want you to think about the numbers. 36.2 million Latinos who are eligible to register to vote. About 64 million strong. And every 30 seconds, a Latino in the US turns 18. And what that means is that every single year, about 1 million additional Latinos are eligible to register to vote, simply for the fact of turning 18. And so I hope that as you're listening to the presentation and the discussion that we're going to have on Q&A, that you're thinking, wow, la oportunidad.
Sí.
It is a massive, massive opportunity. And when we look at registered voters and eligible voters, there is a massive opportunity. But that massive opportunity does not happen by itself. It happens with consistency. It happens with investment. And so I did want to go ahead and start kicking it off. And I'm going to ask the first questions. And we do have mics available. So if you could come up to the mic if you have a question and give me your name, the organization or media outlet that you represent. And we're going to be kicking it off. But first and foremost, Matt and Frankie, if you had Vice President Harris and former President Trump in front of you, what would be the 3 messages that you would give them from the poll findings that we have?
You want to start, Frankie? Go
My recommendation to the campaigns is that you need to engage community organizations in ensuring that our community understands what is at stake, what are their policy platforms. There is an over-reliance right now on C4s and PAC, but the reality is that those that are in the front line are our nonprofit organizations. Those are going to be your allies and your foes once you get into office. And the engagement needs to start right now. It has to be culturally competent, linguistically competent. And what the poll shows is that there is an opportunity to better explain where these candidates stand when it comes to issues that affect our community. So there is a huge opportunity right now. The poll demonstrates it. There is great enthusiasm. I can tell you there were people that were saying to us at the Federation, I'm not interested, not talking to you, I'm not going to register. But now suddenly people say, like, let's have a conversation. It opens up the opportunity, and we are, as a nonprofit, nonpartisan C3 organization, very excited about this opportunity. What about you, Matt?
I think my mic is on. So I am speaking with the Harris campaign. As many folks know, I'm one of the advisors and a consultant there. I won't tell you all of what I'm telling them, but I think it's important for all campaigns, all candidates, no matter what office you're running for, to speak directly to the community and not to be afraid of speaking directly to the community. Sometimes some of our leaders, some of our journalists ask tough questions of candidates, and then sometimes candidates get scared of speaking to the community because they know they're going to face tough questions from some of our most esteemed Hispanic and Latino journalists. And I think it's important to be out there and to be out front no matter what, to introduce yourself, to be in our community. And I think you have now started to see that just in the last 3 to 4 weeks from Vice President Harris. You know, she went on the tour with Governor Walz. 2 of the stops were in very high intense Latino communities in Phoenix and in Las Vegas, and you're seeing those sorts of events continue. So I'm really proud of what she's done. She's been showing up just in the 3 to 4 weeks that she's been on the top of the ticket. And hopefully that sort of energy continues, that these candidates come to our community. They're not afraid of addressing us. They're not afraid of answering questions. They're meeting with our organizations. And that's the way that you win the Latino vote, is by showing up and speaking to our community and speaking to the issues that matter.
Thank you. And I know we have one question lined up, but I did want to acknowledge Tom Perez, who is the special advisor to the president. Tom, if you can please stand up.
All right, Tom.
And he's here in his personal capacity. Thank you, Tom. And I know we have the first question here.
Buenos días. Oh, is this on? Oh, there, I think My name is Moni Ruiz Velasco. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. I am the Deputy Director at Equality Illinois. We're the state's LGBTQ civil rights organization. Thank you. And thank you for having me here today. And I just wonder, given that more than 20% of youth, Latina youth, are identifying as LGBTQ+, and that we are overrepresented in the LGBTQ community, what research you're doing and what visibility you're bringing to that, because I don't see us reflected in the data that you have out here. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Well, I have to say that this is a smaller survey poll than the one that we intended. I think that there has been a lot of things happening in the news, and every time we will call Matt, we're ready for a longer poll. We said, oh, wait a second, we need to shift, we need to wait, So this is a snapshot of what we were able to gather in preparation for the convention. Very brief. We went into the field when the BP was announced, right? The VP candidate. So when both tickets were completed, that's when we waited. And Matt said, like, we have time. I kept saying, Matt, we don't have time. And he said, yes, we can do it. So there will be a longer poll that we are intending to do. As the first openly queer president of the Hispanic Federation, it is really important for me to make sure that our richness in our community, and especially LGBTQ Latinx issues are very front in everything that we do at the Federation. So thank you for that feedback. Anything that you may want
I'll just
to
add, we didn't have it, you're right, in this poll, but we have seen in Latino public opinion data a transition over the last 10 years in particular of more acceptance, more openness, not just from youth, but from older generations as well on LGBTQ issues. It is something that we're going to probe into the next poll, but there is positive movement there in our community, and something that we used to not see 20 years ago, and that is really changing, not just here, but also in Latin America as well.
And I would just add that for Latino Victory, and my sole mission is to increase Latino representation, and that includes Latinos, Latines who are running for office who identify as LGBTQ, and know that we have exceptional candidates who are running across the country for federal offices as well as at the local and state level.
Hi.
Buenos
Hi.
dias.
Buenos dias. My name is Eduardo Batia. I used to be in the state senate in Puerto Rico. Now I'm teaching. I'm a visiting professor at Princeton now. Part of our role in 2008 to get Barack Obama elected was work with Puerto Ricans in Florida. And one of our allies, big allies, were the churches in Florida. In 2024, they are not. I mean, I think the church has shifted in terms of their political agenda, and it's sort of the go-to place for many people to talk to the Latino communities, basically go to the number of local churches. It's a place to go. So if I had to compare 2008 and 2024, it's a lot harder to knock on those doors and have someone from the Harris campaign be allowed to speak in some of those churches. And I'm just talking about Florida. It could be anywhere on the Southern Belt, I think. Having said that, how are we dealing with religious leaders? Is there something, is there a strategy? Is there a way to try to open that door again and see if there's more room or some room to actually access those Latino voters? Because you said the folks who did not know about Harris, we need to reach them. The question is how? How do you reach them? How do you talk to them? How do you knock on their doors? How do you actually get them? Where is a place where you can actually have town hall meetings that they attend and they actually will pay attention? And I say that in terms of a more practical question. How do you do it?
Mm-hmm. Well, on the campaign side, I can say without revealing any secrets, Oscar Silva, who's our coalitions director for all coalitions, is leading a Faith Leaders for Harris movement and is meeting in particular with Latino faith leaders now. So that's something that has started under Harris. It's being rolled out. Oscar is leading that. Both of his parents are pastors. This is something that he knows well. And so I expect that you will start seeing more and more of that, so more and more of those conversations. And I do think you're also going to see that in the Puerto Rican community, but in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, probably not in Florida this year, but for sure in Pennsylvania, where the Puerto Rican community is large, represents over half of all Latino voters in Pennsylvania are Puerto Rican, and will make a significant impact.
From our end, the Hispanic Federation continues to operate in Florida. Some people have kind of not continue paying attention to Florida as it used to. Our operation continues, and we do have coalitions with faith leaders. But the other part is that it's very difficult to do civic engagement in Florida. We have to engage. We have already sued more than once the state because of all the different laws that they have tried to impose on organizations that basically what they want to do is just to get us completely out of civic engagement. We have to pay fines. We have to sue them. We have won twice with our friends at Latino Justice Pro-Def. So it has become increasingly difficult. So I see the point that you are making, but at the same time, also, you're dealing with a new reality. We have canvassers that have been shown guns. People have been spitting on them just because they make assumptions about what exactly they're doing. And it is nonpartisan, nonprofit organizations doing this. So before we used to say, some of our canvassers go to that side of the parking lot, I'll take care of this side. Now we have to have security protocols. So it has become increasingly challenging, but we're not backing down.
And I would just add that on our end, we just added to our national committee Reverend Bolivar Flores, understanding the importance of the faith community and the role that it plays in our communities. But one thing that we're laser focused on is the messaging, right? Understanding that conservatives have taken on really in framing the messages and the policy issues. So we're working also to make sure that on the communication side, we're reframing and we're really tailoring the narrative of what it means to be a Latino with faith involved in your civic duty.
Good morning. My name is Javier Rua. I'm with the Solar and Storage Association of Puerto Rico. We're a nonprofit on renewables. Following with the Puerto Rico theme here, and this is a topic that's bigger than clean energy and renewables. It has to do with democracy itself. And a Puerto Rico issue and democracy usually goes down a rabbit hole of political status. But this is something bigger here. I want to bring forth the topic of the Oversight Board, the Fiscal Oversight Board in Puerto Rico. And as you guys know, some of you know, this is an entity created to steer Puerto Rico out of bankruptcy, but it's really an entity with powers to almost undo Puerto Rico legislation. For the first time ever, the fiscal board is under democratic control for the first time. So the question is, and the comment is, eliciting a reaction is, how can we turn this critical issue and make it more salient in the political discussion? It's basic democracy that matters to Puerto Rico, and on topics like renewable that the fiscal board is fighting against, but other topics, how do we make it even more salient on how to get this fiscal board out of our way?
One of the things that we found effective in the campaign, I think is a very important issue. It's the fiscal board and other democratic issues, I think, just open the door for more mainland discussion and communication. First, the campaigns and candidates and organizations need to be invested in Puerto Rico, even though they aren't voting for president, because there's so much dialogue back and forth. And so the campaigns need to be involved there, talking to people, listening from people there, because we know that they're in touch with their family members here, whether it's in Florida, New York, or Philadelphia, every day. And I think when you start with that basic starting point of being in that community, then you're going to learn and understand how to address those issues that still are important to the electorate here who is voting for president. And so let's make sure that there are opportunities to visit and to be there and to be present and to understand the local community on the island so that those issues can be addressed correctly from the U.S. standpoint. And I think that our campaign is trying to do that, and I think all campaigns for every level need to be involved. If you have a large Puerto Rican community in the U.S., you need to be visiting the island. Frankie?
Great. So I'm going to take a moment to welcome to the podium someone that needs no introduction, someone that I wish we had like a song, Bilingual is my superpower, as he walks on stage, the Honorable Miguel Cardona, our Secretary of Education.
How you doing? Thanks. You made it.
¿Cómo están?
Bien, bien.
Bien, bien.
Good to see you all. Good to see you all. Really honored to be here. Me siento como muy contento de estar con mi gente donde puedo hablar Spanglish y me entienden. Aunque tengo título o lo que sea, profesión, para mí me considero un jíbaro improvisando hoy.
Claro que sí.
Quería dejarles saber también que entendí hoy que tenemos un Latinos con Harris Walls WhatsApp app.
Yeah.
You got it yet?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you downloaded it. Okay. I'm
get
going to
it out.
talk for about 3 minutes. It takes about a minute to download. So I'm going to do a survey at the end again, okay? No, mire. Look, I'm the grandson of farm workers in Puerto Rico, right? And yo siempre digo que los abuelos míos, they left the paradise of Puerto Rico for the projects of Connecticut so that their children and their children's children can have a better life. And there's this saying, as the grandson of farm workers, there's sayings that go around the house, right? One saying is, para tener buena cosecha, hay que saber sembrar. Let that sink in, man. Para tener buena cosecha, hay que saber sembrar. Planting seeds for future generations is what the Harris-Walz ticket is all about. That's what it is. You know, planting seeds for a brighter future for our children, with access to education, access to healthcare, and access to affordable housing. Planting seeds that'll harvest freedom of choice, which it's crazy. In 2024, we're talking about freedom of choice, a strong democracy, a harvest of America that accepts us all just the way we are. Because after all, with the beautiful diversity in the room, this is America. When I was introduced 4 years ago, it was a funny story. I was told like at 2 o'clock that I had to be in the capital of the country, Wilmington, Delaware, in 4 hours. I got over there and I wrote down some notes. And I remember saying when I was introduced to the country then, I'm as American as apple pie and rice and beans. And that was very deliberate. Thank you. That was very deliberate because one thing that I know, and I tell my kids, look, I'm here as a father, I'm here as a husband, I'm here as a citizen, I'm here as an educator. But all those titles, for me, are more important than my work title. The title of Papi is more important than any other title I'm going to have, any other letters that I have after my name. So for me, it's really important to make sure that I'm doing my part, to make sure that my kids have an opportunity to grow up in a country that I can be proud, where they can be themselves, that they don't have to hide or change their stripes. And that's what the Vice President Harris and Governor Walz are fighting for. A future where everyone in America sees themselves, where the middle class is strong and where our freedoms are sound. Quick little story, before I made it to the capital of Wilmington, I had a conversation with somebody else who I consider a jibarito too. He just walked in the room. Luis Miranda, ¿cómo está, hermano? You know, so we're fighting for a ticket that recognizes that kids like me don't have to change their stripes to make it, where what some people say is poisoning the blood of our country, we look at as a superpower that we have. The bilingualism, biculturalism is our superpower. It is what makes this country strong. I always say, as Latinos, nuestra identidad latina is one of our greatest strengths. While our families might have come from different places, they all came with the same goal, to seek a better life, like my grandparents from Aguada, Puerto Rico. Our stories and the stories of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are very similar. Middle-class families working to get ahead and make their communities better. A country where an English learner in a community that's about 70 to 80% below the poverty level can go through public education and public systems and now advise the President of the United States. That's the America that Kamala Harris and Governor Walz are fighting for. Sin embargo, the contrast on the other side cannot be greater. They want to destroy public institutions. Look at Project 2025. They have a playbook for destroying our country. The foundation of our country is under attack. And I always say, como la canción de Maluma que dice, te quiero, te quiero, te quiero, pero muy lejos. That's what we should be thinking about. And so it's time to forget about Project 2025 and remember what our project is in 2024, to get Kamala Harris as President of the United States. I'm going to close with this, and I've said this before. You know, music and cultura is really important to me growing up. It's my identity. It's what grounds me, no matter where I am, from the barrio to the briefing room. La música, it keeps me connected to who I am and my roots. And growing up, there was a song that I used to listen to called Coño Despierta Boricua by Andrés Jiménez. Okay, it was a battle cry song for Boricuas to wake up. So today, my message for Latinos who have so much to lose if we sit this one out, but so much to gain if we get engaged. My message is Coño Despierta Latino. Despierta Latino across the country. We have to get to work, and together we're going to send Kamala Harris and Tim to the White House and elect Democrats up and down the ballot. That's critically important, that we have a Hill that is supporting us as well, and prove that our greatest days in America are still ahead of us. Pa'lante, mi gente. Muchas gracias.
Pa'lante.
And now it's my honor, con un gran aplauso, to bring Latino Victory Chairman Luis Miranda to the stage.
Thank you for, I was actually listening to all of it in Facebook. So I know exactly what has transpired over the last hour. But I wanna close with a couple of messages from the poll. At the end of the day, we all have our own opinions. We're all here with our 501c3 hats. So we're very clear that we want to give info to Latinos so at the end they make up their mind as to who they're going to be voting for. But something that Matt talked about, it's that if you look at Latinos and our look at immigration, half of us were wondering and worrying about the wall, about the border. The other half were worrying about a path to citizenship. What do we do with the millions of Latinos who have families, have lived here all of their lives, and need a chance to become American citizens? Because you could be sitting here and we won't be able to identify who's who. So we're all part of the same community. The second part that I thought it was important on the poll, it's the opportunity, quite frankly, for both parties. Only 40% of Latinos actually know what the Republican Party and Trump stands for. And only 33% of Latinos know the same info on Harris. So the opportunity, it's great, it's enormous for both parties if they wanted to communicate with us. We know at the end, historically, we tilt 2/3 Democrat, 1/3 or less Republican. And Democrats know that they have to get to that magic 2/3 in battleground states to make sure that they will win that battleground state. So this is just the beginning of the work that the Hispanic Federation and Latino Victory will continue to do to really get a sense of where we are as a community and what we need to do and the work we need to do until Election Day. Thank you.
All right. Muy bien.
And with that, thank you so much for coming. This is the first event on Democracy House, so continue seeing more of the events. And Cindy, you wanted to mention a couple of other events?
So I wanted to invite everyone on Wednesday. We have Latino Victory Foundation's Poder panel happening at the Drake, and that's from 9 to 11. And then we also have a brunch happening on Thursday. And if we have any elected officials in the house, please see me. And I also want to acknowledge Silvia Puente, who I saw in the room. Silvia, thank you for your work here in Chicago.
And also, the Hispanic Federation will be hosting in this same room on Wednesday at 2 o'clock a panel, very important panel about Afro-Latinidad and how we can start working together to mobilize community. Really important panel. Please join us, register. And with that, muchísimas gracias.
All right.
Muy bien.
Great job.
Yeah.
With the craziness of the schedule and people coming and going, you got the whole panel in.
Here, let's do it.
Carmona, Luis, everybody made it. It was good.